Healthcare is a right guaranteed and protected by the Ninth Amendment. Well, you know what? That can be argued. It really can, because there was no healthcare when the founders wrote all of it. And this has been the argument, because what the socialists want to do is make the government do everything for everyone. And our founders, that's the opposite of what they wanted, because every other country had that. So that what happens is when the socialists come in and use all of this stuff to give the government more power, then it gives you less freedom. Anybody can walk into an ER, and then I saw, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, that said, yeah, and then it's not right for us to get a bill. The government wasn't instituted to do everything for you. It wasn't. Not America's Constitution. They wanted the government as little as possible, not involved. The founders lived under that in England, in Holland. They lived under all that crap. That's the reason, there were so many back and forths about, with the states and ratifying. And it's like at every turn, we do not want to be giving the federal government more and more power, because it means less liberty. With socialized medicine, the government dictates how many people the doctors can see a year, because they're paying for it. Actually, we're paying for it. The American people have to pay for it. And it sucks. It's a suck. More people die under it. Because again, when Canada only can work, their doctors work half the year because they meet their quota that the government says, okay, we're cutting off now. We're not going to pay for anymore. So then everybody's out. That's why they wait 6 months to see a doctor. So then those doctors come to America to take up practice here so that they can earn the rest of their living. So you can run around and say all this all you want, but there's so many arguments to be made. Okay? First of all, anybody can walk into an ER and we do not turn them away. Is there a bill for that? Yeah. Yeah, but if you want to be treated or get a job, get it through the work, but no, nobody wants to say that. No, some people can't work. Okay. And we have Medicaid. But what you guys want to do is put everybody on Medicare for all, or a one-payer system. And it's very, very simple. We know from the history of the world what that does. The government never does anything right. So when you put them in charge of your health care, they will do what they did in Canada, what they do in Canada. And the government says, this is your quota, doctors. You can only see this amount of people. And regarding the Ninth Amendment, the Ninth Amendment was intended to protect against the idea that by enumerating particular exceptions to the grant of power to the federal government, those rights which were not singled out were intended to be assigned into the hands of the general government, the United States, and were consequently insecure. That amendment was passed not to broaden the powers of this court or any other department of the general government, but as every student of history knows, to assure the people that the Constitution in all its provisions was intended to limit federal government to the powers granted expressly or by necessary implication for a period of a century and a half. No serious suggestion was ever made that the Ninth Amendment, enacted to protect state powers against federal invasion, could be used as a weapon of federal power to prevent state legislation from passing laws they consider appropriate to govern local affairs. I mean, a lot of this stuff, there's so many arguments to be made against this, because much of this should be handled at the state level, like so many things are supposed to be, but nope, socialists want, they want the federal government, which means the rest of us, to pay for everybody to have health care. We have Medicaid, okay? We have so many socialist programs. Half of them don't operate right because they've just been used as a way to funnel money to the very politicians on the left and the right side. But do you really want health care where the health care is shut down, because that's what happens, because the federal government, when they're running it, it won't operate the way it operates now. It won't. Every doctor will be told, this is your quota. Once you reach this, we're not paying anymore. So they shut down. So then if you happen to get sick in those 6 months, you're screwed. You'll have to go to another country. So you can make this argument, because I've heard it from every damn nursing at the professional levels, but they never want to talk about how the fact is you don't, what you hate is our Constitution. You want a babysitter, you want somebody to hold your hand, you don't want liberty, you don't want freedom, but you want to demand that the government give you freedom. When our founders said, no, the government doesn't give you freedom, God does. And you probably hate God, because the socialists, most of them, it's like God, that's such a, an unholy word. But that was the point, because they all lived under socialist systems and saw how it operated. But the fact is, it had nothing, the Ninth Amendment doesn't have anything to do with health care, because there was no health insurance when the founders wrote all of that. It's as simple as that. The socialists want the government to do everything for them. They don't want to act independently. They don't want to have the freedoms the founders wanted you to have. You want to demand that the government fix everything. And then every time they do, they F it up like the government does in every country, because they bite off more than they can chew, okay? Because they're dealing in areas that they're not have an ability to control, that they don't even have any knowledge in. So then when you have them trying to regulate healthcare, it's nothing but a nightmare. And because they're regulating it, they're going to want only a certain quota, because they're going to only be willing to pay for it to a certain point, because you can only take from us, the people, for so long. And they already take enough money out of our check for everything else. But the fact is, before Obamacare, since Obamacare, anybody can walk into an ER and get treated. Nobody will turn somebody away. Is that the perfect healthcare system you want? No, it's not. Because you want to say somebody should be able to go to a doctor when they, okay, fine. Do you know how many people come into the ER, especially people that don't have insurance, and they get prescriptions filled? So it's handled. But the moment you have the federal government handling it, nobody will be seeing anybody, because you'll be forced to go to the ER, because your doctors will shut down, because the government will say, this is the cutoff point. You either want freedom or you don't. But there was no health insurance when the Ninth Amendment was written. And everything that the founders wanted was about, do not give more and more power to the federal government. Because every time you give them more, it takes more of your liberty away. But the socialists, all of you guys want the babysitters. You don't want freedoms. You just want to demand that everybody else has to take care of everything. You want to demand that the federal government take care of everything in your life, which means every time you do that and you give them over your liberty, then the rest of us, it comes out of everybody's paycheck. Because where else is the money going to come from? It has to come from all of us.